And it's another season of Roto Hackers. We are your unauthorized reporters for fantasy football and news and entertainment. My name
Information, but close enough.
It's been a while, okay? My name is Judah Buddha, and I'm here with AJ Herschel, the kid. And we are joined by one of my old friends and often someone who joins me in other podcasts I do. And we have a story to tell about how we accidentally got in the same fantasy league.
Ooh, I'm ready to hear this.
Yes, Jared.
Just Jared. Just Jared. It's like
Jared.
It's like that. It's like that scene. It's like that scene in Game of Thrones where Jon and Daenerys meet, and so they roll off all of Daenerys's titles, and then Sir Davos is just like, yeah, this is Jon Snow. He's king in the north.
Okay, so just Jared. He's the king in the north, and south down in Georgia. You were just down in the south, weren't you, AJ?
Yeah, headed down to North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite places in the world.
90 degrees and no air conditioning. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds abysmal. So let's get to some fantasy football. And to start us off, if you go to rotohackers.com, we actually do some legitimate hacking. And by hacking, I mean we're just hacks. We stream what do we stream? What is that? Roto I can't even remember.
Roto World?
Roto World, yeah. So in our little news stream, so let's go ahead and start with our first segment, which is news and notes. Fantasy football. Really creative there. Nobody else does this. And the thing that stands out to me, I don't know if you guys have looked at it in the news, but Keenan Allen. I took Keenan Allen almost everywhere. Keenan Allen got a little tweak in the ankle, and that's not making Uncle Judah Buddha happy. Anybody else see that?
I did. I saw that. Yeah, it sounds like he'll be back by the opener, though.
That's why you don't draft until after week 4.
That's what everybody says. But you know what? I've been drafting like a madman, and I feel good about it. Although I do have a lot of Keenan Allen. I do have a lot of Melvin Gordon.
Oh no!
Ooh, boy.
Oh, that one is scary. Yeah.
I don't. So it says, the talks drone on. Doesn't look like they're coming to any kind of a decision. Do you think?
Not even close.
Let me get your guys' take first from you, AJ.
Yeah.
Are we looking at another Bell situation?
I don't think Gordon's going to stay in LA. I don't think he can. First off, I don't think the Chargers are going to be able to pay him eventually. They've got Rivers, they've got Allen, they have a really growing defense. They're just not going to be able to have the cap room. Plus, after that, you have 2 really great running backs behind him in Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson, which I'm sure I'll talk about later. But this year, I can't see him probably playing much without a new deal. And if he does get one, I can't see him staying longer in a year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably misses. I think he probably plays half the season, but because it's not quite this. It's not the Le'Veon Bell situation. He's not franchise tagged. He's still under contract for another year.
So he would have to play what, like 8 games?
I think they're saying like 8 games. Yeah. So, but the danger that you get into too is if he comes back halfway through the year. Eckler, if Eckler and Justin Jackson have done well, then he may have to be eased into it, and it may stay as a true running back by committee. And so I think like the longer he stays away, the more likely they are to try to reward those guys by keeping giving them touches.
But here's the difficulty. AJ, you talk about him going somewhere else. The Chargers don't have to get rid. I mean, you're talking about cap space, but I mean, Rivers is an old man. I guess they don't have anybody else coming up behind him. But I can't see them investing a lot into him. And then, I mean, we're looking at What I think this is the 5th year. Keenan Allen's 5th year, right? He's injured every year. Seems like.
He finally had a healthy season last year.
Did he? Okay.
Mostly.
I thought he
got hurt he did. He got hurt, I think, actually in the fantasy playoffs. Yeah, that's true. I think it was the year before. He did finally have one healthy season. But yeah, I've stayed away from him. And Gordon, my first league, I drafted Gordon. And I've tried to peddle him off on people, and nobody will take him. So, but I do have Eckler. So
he's been my keeper since his in my church league, my main league. He's been my keeper since his rookie year, and it's for better or worse. You know, he's given me really good years, but he's never given me a great finish.
Yeah, so, and he's always hurt in the playoffs.
Yes,
too.
He is. So I don't know. Moving on. Beckham's got a little tweak, something I have him in a lot of leagues too, and I feel like I'm constantly getting notifications that he's moved from healthy to questionable. I'm like, what is going on with this guy? Now I know it's because he hasn't really actually played, or nobody really knows what's going on. But what do you guys think? Is this just nothing? Forget about it. This is just noise, or do you guys worry about him? And let's go beyond. So we'll go to you, Jared. I'm talking about beyond just these little injuries and him. Oh, another guy who gets injury. He seems to have an injury tag that goes along with him. But moving to a new team, I don't feel great about the relationship talk. Where they say, "Oh, well, we'll get on the right page eventually." Right. What do you say?
I don't have. I've got. What have I got? 7 leagues so far. And I don't have him in any. And it's not really that I've actively tried to avoid him. It's just kind of the way my picks have worked out. I'm not taking him as a first round pick. And in the second round, he's either not been there, or there's been, someone, at least one other player that I valued more. So I haven't drafted him in any leagues. Yeah, it worries me a little bit. I mean, he, because I've had him. He really rewarded me his rookie year. I picked him up his rookie year, and down the stretch, he just exploded. Just put up insane video game numbers, almost like just Madden numbers. But I've had him off and on in some leagues since then. And, I think last year I had him on a couple of teams, and they kept saying he was coming back, and never did. And it's always tough when wide receivers try to transition. Usually it's tough when receivers try to transition to a new team. And
a new system too. It's not the same system.
Yeah, and a new system. So, I mean, I think he's good enough, and Mayfield is good enough that he'll do well, but it's just it's kind of enough of an unknown that I don't really want to draft him where he's going, and then he's gone by the time, I would be a little more comfortable drafting him.
What say you, AJ?
Last year I had Odell, and he was moderately good. He was pretty good. I would still say
more towards the end, right?
10. Definitely. He was definitely better toward the end. But I think definitely part of the thing with his injury is just the fact that he was basically the only wide receiver Giants had. I know, Judah Buddha, you've been high on Sterling Shepard, but that's not happening ever.
It's
not happening. But Odell was always the number one wide receiver. He was complete focus of the New York Giants. They really didn't have a true number one wide receiver like Odell. And so he was getting all the receptions. I mean, they used him as quarterback last year, for crying out loud. For part of
Twice, right?
Exactly, yeah. So I feel like this injury he has is going to be minor. I don't think it's going to be major, especially since he'll be sharing the load with Jarvis Landry as well. I still wouldn't really take him in a lot of leagues. Like you were saying, Jared, I just wouldn't take him as much. I'm not super high on him, but for people who are high on him, or people who do think that he's definitely worth where he's going right now, I'd take him. I don't think this ankle injury is a big deal.
Well, I see. I don't see much more news and notes. So let's move on to, because I want to say more about that as when we talk about drafting. So let's move on to the next segment I like to call drafting.
Where did you come up with that?
Very descriptive.
I'm in a creative mood, folks. So I want to get your guys's, like, first of all, do you go to a draft? Do you approach a draft with any kind of strategy? Do you make your own rankings? Is there somebody's rankings that you like to use? And if you've done any drafts, I know you've done drafts, Jared. What have you found becomes a reoccurring pattern in these drafts? You two, AJ, if you've done any, or if you've thought about or done any mock drafts. AJ, have you done any?
Not actual drafts. It's my thing that I just wait 4th week. I always want to make sure I know and trust the people who I'm drafting by then.
Have you done any mock drafts?
Yeah, I think I've done 1 or 2 mock drafts,
Okay.
Nothing major.
Have you noticed anything?
My draft strategy every year is typically the same. Running backs typically, whenever I draft, typically go really high in the first round. If I get something like a 1st, 2nd, 3rd pick, I'll typically take someone like an Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley. But I find myself more times than not in the first 2 rounds typically taking wide receivers and trying to get a really great duo there. Like last year I had 1st round and 2nd round, I believe I took DeAndre Hopkins and Odell Beckham Jr. I think those are my first 2 picks. And I always find that running backs, typically they'll be somewhere in the injury-prone land, I guess I could say. And so I feel like running backs are a lot more, you can find a lot more running backs on the waiver wire who come in later in the season that I can use to start making my fantasy push towards the playoffs. Conversely to wide receivers, which I don't believe I can find a lot of. So I typically go wide receiver first if I'm late 1st round.
Interesting. What about you, Jared?
Yeah, it really depends. I do. I don't know if maybe my first draft or so I go in with that much of a strategy because mock drafts don't always give you an accurate representation of how things are going to play out in a real draft. But after the first time or so, I do tend to kind of develop sort of a strategy for if I'm drafting near, the top of the round, the middle of the round, or the end of the round. After a draft or 2, I know generally where players are going. And so I start trying, especially for those first few rounds, to try to, kind of gauge, who I'm going to be able to probably get in order to do what I like to do, which is kind of to build in those first few rounds, like a balanced, get elite, hopefully elite players, but sort of balanced across, running back, wide receiver, and even, tight end, if there's somebody worth taking there. Because, sort of to what AJ was saying, about being able to find players on the waiver wire, I feel like if I've got an elite receiver in there, an elite running back, and tight end, somewhere along the way, I'm going to be able to find, another good receiver off the waiver wire. Like we were saying before, Beckham's rookie year, he came in at one point. Last year, a guy that I picked up on some was Kenny Golladay, and then even Cooper Kupp. I think a lot of times either sometimes wasn't drafted or got drafted late and then got dropped, and then you could pick him up or something like that. So
but focus on this year. Like, what do you see? What do you feel like this year as far as a trend, or like? Sure.
So kind of what I've been trying to do is I haven't gotten a high pick. I got a top 4. I got the 4th pick one time out of let's see, what have I done? 6 drafts that have been snake drafts. And I got the 4th pick once, and every other time it's been somewhere like 5 through 8 or 9, which has been, a little bit frustrating.
I found that this year being in the middle is really hard.
Yeah,
it is really hard.
Particularly this year.
It is really hard because, like I said, when I drafted that first time, I was 7th and I took Melvin Gordon, not knowing he was going to be holding out. And so that's, part of the downside of drafting early. But at that same time, like, people thought Tyreek Hill was going to miss the entire season.
True.
And I took him at the bottom of the 9th round, a second round player at the bottom of the 9th round. So
wow,
what a steal.
so that was a huge steal. So it kind of evens out. But yeah, so Gordon, of course, now Gordon's going later. But some other guys that I would be, kind of sketchy on taking, like David Johnson. Like David Johnson scares me a little bit. I loved David Johnson his second season. Now, like, what's it going to be like this year in Arizona? Like Kyler Murray, they were really high on him. They've been really high on him in the preseason, still high on him after his first start in last week. And then he flopped tonight, which I know it's preseason, but I don't know what that offense is going to be like. So I think it is harder. Like I don't really normally I like to be in the middle because you don't have to wait as long in between picks. You're not as prone to position runs and things like that. So normally, like if you give me like the 5th or 6th pick, I'm like, yeah, I'm good with that. But this year you really have kind of 3 or 4 guys. It would probably be 4 if we didn't have the threat of the Ezekiel Elliott holdout. Yeah, you would have really like 4 rock solid superstar guys that you would feel completely comfortable about. And then after that, it's a lot of guys that you're kind of like David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, James Conner. Should you draft a receiver like Adams or Hopkins over him? Yeah. And so completely agree with you on that.
And I think we were talking about this earlier, Jared, or maybe it was you, AJ, where I find that when I'm drafting this year, there's just like this huge abundance of players in the first 3 or 4 rounds, and then it just drops off. The middle rounds themselves, like to me, from 5 until like, I don't know, like 8 or 9, is just like no man's land. You're sitting there like deciding between who was it the other day? I was deciding between it. You basically have to, you're down to, in these bigger leagues, especially that I've been in, down to picking between like these 3rd-rate tight ends. Maybe, I've been going quarterback because I'm like, I don't see any running backs. It's usually these, it's like you got, who have I been? I'm trying to think through the ADP, but usually it's someone like Ingram, will be in that area. You'll for running backs, you'll have all these like little scat backs like Dion Lewis, which I like Dion Lewis, but it doesn't feel like I can rely on somebody like Dion Lewis or
right?
What's his name?
Naheem
Hines, or
you must be in some pretty big leagues on those, because those guys, like 10-team leagues, are just usually not even, if they're getting drafted, it's like a later, like 15th round or something.
No, I haven't done very many 10 leagues, mostly like 12, 14.
Yeah.
And some of them are all, well, see, I've been dipping my toe into Superflex too. And there's this new thing where it's like extra flex. So not just the extra flex, but another flex, which is all 3 in most of these leagues I'm in. And then a super flex on top of that. So I don't know. It just feels exhausting trying to fill all the slots. So I've just been loading up on running backs. That's my approach, is loading up on running backs. I try to get like one at the beginning, one solid wide receiver. And I'm going for one of 3 guys. My top favorite guys, for some reason right now, I've got a huge man crush on Chubb. And I've got, lately I just started thinking about Saquon Barkley. And I'm just like, man, that guy is a beast. I guess I saw some tape of him, and like I saw some tape of him in high school, and like he's been doing this he's just always been a beast. He was a beast last year. He's gonna beast this year. So him, and then David Johnson. I was higher on him at the beginning of the year. I was taking him everywhere, first round. Yeah, in the league we're in, he was my first pick. I was like pick 3, and but I've been souring on him a little bit, mainly because it's like it's scary.
Yeah.
I don't, he's got a great talent, but I haven't seen that great talent for a while. And so I said all that to say, mid rounds, I've been taking a lot of tight ends and quarterbacks. I've been doing quarterbacks mid rounds. I usually wait till the end to take a quarterback. Last year, I took Mahomes, my second to last. I took kind of bit me in the butt, but I took a lot of what's his name? He played for the Broncos. Case Keenum. No, that was a bad choice. But I ended up just streaming and I did all right, streaming. But this year, even though it seems like there's a lot more quarterbacks, it also seems like there's a big chasm between the first four, and I actually don't include Rodgers in the first four.
Yeah.
And the rest.
Well, who's your like Mahomes, Watson, Luck, and
not Luck anymore.
Not Luck anymore. So who are your other
two? It was Luck and
Ryan.
No.
Breeze.
Yeah, Breeze. And
did you have Baker?
One more, no.
Russell Wilson.
No. Who am I thinking?
Lamar Jackson.
I love Lamar Jackson, but I can't. He's not in the top. He's not in the top four. I think it's because Luck isn't in there anymore.
Yeah,
it was Luck, Breeze. Well, I mean, the first is Mahomes, Watson, Luck, and Breeze. Like, other than that, like everybody else is just kind of the same guy except for Jackson. Oh, and Cam. I've been taking Cam like later on.
I think Cam's a good value. I think like quarterback, there's some good value guys this year. I think like I drafted Carson Wentz in several leagues, like as a later pick, because he's like, when he's playing, he's like consistently like the number 5 quarterback in terms of points.
When he's playing.
But like last year, what I did was I got him and I got Roethlisberger, which means you're rostering 2 quarterbacks. And I know some people don't like to do that, but I see a lot more people rostering 2 quarterbacks, like going against like the expert advice. But like, so what I would do is I got Wentz, and then I had Roethlisberger, and I would play Roethlisberger for the home games where, again, it's like a video game but now this year, I don't know without Antonio Brown, how that's going to go. But, so we'll see what happens with Wentz, but, Wentz, like Matt Ryan, I got Matt Ryan in an auction league for $1. So people don't have a lot of faith in him.
That's a whole different strategy when you're doing auction league, because like I've noticed that if you throw out some like some quarterbacks early, nobody's focused on the quarterbacks. They're like, okay, whatever,
true.
And you can, if you're not throwing out Mahomes or Watson, like people just whatever. You can get them cheap.
Yeah.
Whenever I see quarterbacks, I just worry pretty much because every quarterback, it's either, it doesn't necessarily just come down to their skill or their point value. It always just worries me either about their injury history or their current offense and whether they're going to mesh or not. It just is question marks almost over everyone. Even as much as I love Deshaun Watson, he's still injury prone. I mean, as much as I hate to admit it, he still does get injured. He's got a bad leg. So
everybody gets injured though. Everybody gets injured.
Well, but he's torn his ACLs twice though. Like he tore his ACL at Clemson in college, and then he tore it in I think year 2 or maybe it's his rookie year at
it's his rookie year.
It's his rookie year at in Houston. So he does, it's scary.
AJ Watson. High on Watson.
Always been, always will be.
AJ Herschel. I mean, AJ Herschel has always been like, when I was a naysayer, AJ loved him.
Well, like I covered him. I was sports editor in Gainesville when he played in high school. So I have the distinction of one time I put a cape on Deshaun Watson, and
You put a cape on
I
it.
put a cape because we did our high school football preview, and
Ooh.
yeah, I can send you that photo. But we did our high school football preview every year, and so the year I was there, sports editor at that daily paper there, I wanted to do a superhero theme, and so we made him our Superman. So I got a Superman shirt in his school colors. It was red and white. It was Gainesville, and so we had one of him posing like with the Superman pose, where he's got the like a collared
Cam
shirt
Newton.
pulled
There you
open.
go.
Well, that's what he thought it was. Like he didn't know like the history of the old Superman thing, and so when I was trying to explain to him what I wanted him to do, of just like having the shirt unbuttoned and pulled open and kind of like looking off, he's like, that thing that Cam Newton does. And I'm like, well, yeah, but Cam Newton didn't start that, and so then we did another one where he was actually dressed up in a cape, and he's actually like kneeling on the gym floor with like his fist raised,
Awesome.
and I'm behind him flapping the cape for our photographer, and then we just like cut him out and pasted him on where it looks like he's flying through the air. So those are
awesome.
always my Deshaun Watson stories.
Do you have any of those pictures or anything?
Yeah, I can send them to you.
That's cool. Now I want to take a minute real quick, speaking of Georgia, to look at our backgrounds and explain it for those who just have the audio. So I have it looks like a bomb exploded, but actually it was just I have a little sloth in the background who actually terrorized my office. So I blame the sloth. And Jared has the exact opposite. There's this like spick and span, and
it's all the junk is just like, well, you can see like part of it, but it's mostly just like pushed out of the way.
And then AJ Herschel has some nice little you got the Georgia dogs back there.
What's the Funko Pop? Who's he?
Yeah, I got Captain America right there.
Oh, Captain America. I got a Captain American Pop, yeah.
Yep, there you go.
I stay as far away from Funko Pops as I can. All right, well, that was our small edition of What's Behind You.
New backgrounds every week.
All right, and so for our second to last segment, our last segment was just going to be a suggested segment by AJ. Just kind of a, what do you call it?
First word, last word.
First word,
but last word. Yeah.
Oops. Okay. And we'll do it next time. But before we do, let's do hot takes. We're gonna do some hot takes here, and I'm putting you on the spot, Jared. I didn't tell you, but we've as hackers, as roto hackers, we have built our empire on our hot takes. We call it hot takes.
That's too hot.
And this is the segment in which we where Judah makes a fool of him. Judah Buddha makes a fool of himself, and AJ Herschel actually has a few good ones. So, do you have any, AJ or Jared?
I need a minute to think about it. Yeah.
So while you guys are thinking about that, unless you've got any, AJ,
I got one, but you can go first.
Okay, my hot take: the Browns are not going to make the playoffs.
Oh, so this is just this doesn't even have to be exactly fantasy football. It's NFL.
Right. Yeah. Well, dang it, you're right. We should keep it fantasy football. Okay. Well, I will keep it fantasy football and say that Mayfield is not even going to be a top 10 quarterback.
Ooh.
Not going to be a top 10 quarterback.
Interesting. Why do you say that?
Well, for one thing, all last year, I didn't even talk about the Browns. I was going to talk about it in my. Oh, I talked about Chubb, right?
Yeah,
so,
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. So, but last year, even though he was a very efficient and he's a good thrower, smart thrower, he's not like an air raid type guy. And who's the Kitchens? Is that Kitchens?
Yeah, Freddie Kitchens. Yeah,
Freddie Kitchens. Although he's all about offense, he's got Monk in there, who's a smarter, like offensively minded strategy type coach. I just think they're going to be smarter, and they're not going to be this kind of like fantasy bonanza type team that everybody thinks they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be as good. I think they're still rebuilding. I think they still have a lot of personalities that got to mesh, and they have a Lamborghini for a running back that they're just going to run the heck out of everybody. You know,
They have Kareem Hunt now, though.
Yeah, for
You
half
have
the
that
season.
duo.
Yeah.
no, for like 4 games.
No, he'll miss the first 8. He'll be there for half the season.
It took him 8 weeks to learn the system mid-year.
I really don't think he's going to do anything. But sure, that's my other hot take. Kareem Hunt's not going to do a thing. I really think he was a product of his system and his team. He had that extra step and what do they call it? He ran with violence, you know.
Mhm.
But he also had a very good line and Andy Reid's offense is always like keeping people guessing, you know. So there's always big holes to run through. Not that he's not going to have that with the Browns. I just didn't think he was like, you know, skill wise amazing. Whereas I do think Chubb is amazing.
Go Dogs.
That may just be my man crush. So, does anybody else have any hot takes?
I'll throw one out. I'll throw one out quickly. I'll say Saquon Barkley doesn't finish as a top 5 running back.
Whoa.
You get out of here.
Nah.
No.
What?
Hot
Number
take.
6.
Okay.
He might be number 6. Yeah.
Well, so what is that? I mean, where is that just coming from? Who knows who's the quarterback's going to be? What's the offense going to be? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think last year I became more of a believer than ever in taking a guy based on you know, not just on their talent, but on the offense. You know, I mean, we saw when David Johnson's line was terrible and he had a rookie quarterback, you know, that his numbers tanked.
Mhm.
We saw with the Rams and with the Chiefs, the Rams lost Todd Gurley. They brought in CJ Anderson, and CJ Anderson put up Todd Gurley numbers. The Chiefs lost Kareem Hunt. They brought in Damian Williams, who
You're
was
making
like,
my point for me. Yes.
yeah, the second best running back who was the second best running back in Miami. And he became a star running back. And so I mean, Barkley, you're right. I mean, he is like such a physical freak. Like, he's still good enough to put up huge numbers, but man, like if teams really want to stack up on him with Eli Manning another year older, or Daniel Jones, you know, maybe he gets in there. No Odell Beckham. You know, you're starting out with Golden Tate suspended 4 games. Shepard's hurt. Corey Coleman tore his ACL. I mean, it could be ugly. It would scare me. It would scare me if I had the number 1 or so pick to take him, I think.
I agree, but I disagree with you that I think he's going to be top 5. I do think it is going to be scary. You know what I would point to? Shepard.
No, please.
And Ingram. Man. Ingram is going to go off.
Ingram, I'll give you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get Ingram. I saw you take him in that league we're in, Jared. And
yeah, I traded for him, yeah.
I traded for him, and I'm thinking, man, I wish I had asked for that. But okay. AJ Herschel?
All right. Okay, first hot take. Look, I know the Steelers are depleted. Okay. I know Antonio Brown has gone to the chaos in LA, but I have been high on this guy since I drafted him in his rookie season, and Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be a top 5 wide receiver this year.
Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and say that.
I don't know if that's a hot take.
He was number 8 last year with Antonio Brown in Pittsburgh. He's going to develop so much as a number 1 wide receiver. I think if he's 3rd round and he isn't taken yet, I'm taking him immediately.
Oh no, everybody's taking him 2nd round.
Yeah, I haven't seen him go past 2nd round. He's
going to be
usually
top 5. He's going to be top 5 easily, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, so who would your top 5 be? Who do you think your top 5? Who are we talking about?
It'd probably revolve around Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Juju Smith-Schuster. Who else am I thinking of right now? DeAndre
Hopkins,
obviously up there.
Beckham.
Adams.
Adam.
Devontae
Give me
Adams.
Devontae Adams. Yeah.
So you think he's going to beat out like Beckham?
Yes, I do think he's going to beat out Odell Beckham.
And you think he's going to beat out? Do you think he'll beat out? I guess my question is like I'm really curious to see how close downtown Antonio Brown comes to getting to the top 5 because he could.
Yeah,
I mean, he's the best
curse. It's
skill
not happening.
wise. I mean, fix your feet and get out there. You know.
I think, man, I'm not taking him. Like I would take him. I would take him maybe late third, or early fourth, because of the talent. But he's not there.
Scary, yeah.
He's not there, so it's not even an option for me. But
he will be. I guarantee you, he will be. He's dropping.
He may now. He hasn't been in the drafts I've been doing, but I think what scares me is like he was in such a good and productive situation in Pittsburgh, and he was still unhappy. What happens in Raider hard knock land if Derek Carr's not getting that ball to him, and then like the numbers aren't what they were, and then the questions start coming about, oh, did Ben Roethlisberger just make you good? He's gonna flip his lid, and if that happens. So yeah, he scares me. I would be scared to take him as a number 1 wideout.
I wouldn't be scared to take Juju. I think I'm warming to taking Juju. If Hopkins is gone, I'm not a big fan of Adams. If Adams is gone, I mean, I'd probably take Juju over Adams. I'd take him over Beckham. Now I'm starting to warm. I'm starting to cool on Beckham, so I think that's what's going on. Well, it doesn't hurt that he's hurt. However minor it may be, it still bugs me.
I think Juju might have the second or third like safest floor, in terms of receiver, because we haven't really seen him. Like Julio gets banged up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I hate drafting Julio. I hate it.
Devontae Adams, Rodgers, is tied to Rodgers, and Rodgers' health. You never know if he's going to get broken in half. So I think like Juju is so safe because he's going to get the targets.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about injuries as much. It looks like. I say that now, and then he'll like tear both ACLs or something. But I think like I think like his ceiling is not as high as like maybe the top 3 or so guys, but like he's maybe got one of the safest floors out there.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think those are some good hot takes. Jared, did you what was your hot take?
Mine was Saquon.
Oh, that's right. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
Good
I think as a bonus one, I'll say Gurley. I'll say Gurley ends up finishing top 5. So Gurley finishes top 5, Saquon doesn't.
Wow. See, the reason I like these hot takes, to go down.
There you go.
Chubb and Gurley, baby. The reason I like doing these hot takes is it forces us to really like get our gut out there. These are gut takes or whatever. Gut check. I think it's important to start, like, it helps us kind of vocalize too, like what we're really feeling passionate about.
I'm going to throw out one quick one real quick. This is probably going to be a little bit crazy, but kind of a little bit contrary to what you're saying.
Okay.
But yeah, right now, Saquon Barkley is the only person I feel confident taking out of the entire NFC East.
What?
All of them.
Like running back or wide receiver?
Every team. Yeah. He's the only one I can feel truly confident that I can get an actual standard production out of. I don't feel safe taking anyone from Washington, Dallas, or Philly.
I pretty well agree with you just because of Elliott's holdout. Like I there's no one in Washington that I want to touch.
No.
There's Okay, no. Well, I'm going to disagree though because Ingram. I like Evan Ingram.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, I think even maybe Zach Ertz's numbers could be down in Philly, and they're like Alshon Jeffrey's always hurt and he's getting older.
Yeah.
Their running back situation is committee. Dallas, I don't know what Amari Cooper's gonna do. I mean,
like Amari. I like Amari this year.
I like him, but man, he was like 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, or like 25 yards last year. It was just completely, boom or bust. So, if not for if Elliott wasn't holding out, like he would be the guy that I would take number one easily for me. So I agree. It would just be like Saquon and Ingram for me out of the NFC East. Yeah.
Yeah.
Including quarterbacks?
Yeah, I would want to take someone else.
Yeah, because I mean, look at the quarterbacks. The Giants don't have anybody. The Redskins don't.
Like Dax. I like Dax.
Dak is underrated.
Yeah,
Dak is underrated.
Production.
I think it's going to be higher than people expect this.
He could be like, I could see Dak finishing top, like fringe top 10, like 9 or 10. But
I mean, if he doesn't produce, if he doesn't throw, and well, who knows what's happening with Elliott? But if he doesn't produce, they're going to be either he's going to have high production or they're just going to be a terrible team.
Well, they've got. He'll have a full year of Amari. And I think after Amari came over, he was like number 9 or 10 because he'll still rush for, scores. So he's got Amari. Michael Gallup, is a year older and he was their 3rd round pick. They were hoping that he could, develop, but receivers, their rookie year, it's just really hard for him. So Gallup will be better. I keep forgetting, like, didn't Jason Witten's back with them, right?
Yeah. I haven't seen anything about that though.
I haven't either, but at least, who did they have playing tight end last year? So,
Thomas or something. Oh,
yeah. I think they rotated some guys, but no, I think Dak, the problem with Dak, and I saw somebody else say this too, is he's a guy that you could get that could be like, 9 or 10. Like, I think like in a 2 quarterback league, he's a perfect second quarterback. Yeah. But, when you're drafting a guy in a 1 quarterback league, you're hoping for like top 5 upside, and with Dak, you almost certainly are not going to get any upside with him. He's going to be solid for you, but but not
I don't know. Like at the end of the year, last year, fantasy wise, he had like a string of like 3 40-point games. I remember
how many points per touchdown. Is that 6 or 4?
That was a 6.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, I don't remember that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, and maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. I'm prone to do that, but I was really impressed with him at the end of the year, and I wanted to take him. I didn't have the guts to take him for the final game. I should have taken him.
Well, you won our league anyway, so that didn't matter.
Well, who did I? Yes, because I played Watson.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyways, all right. Final takes, or what was it called? Last words. Any last words?
I'll get mine out of the way just because I wanted to circle back to what you were saying earlier. I like, and I'm going to do this in an auction draft. I like the strategy of trying to stock up on a bunch of like the running backs that are going like in like 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds. So I've got a couple auction drafts this weekend. And so I'm going to try to get, like an elite wide receiver, and then maybe like a 2nd tier kind of wide receiver, like a Mike Evans or something like that. Get a good tight end like Kittle or somebody like that. And then try to load up on like 4 running backs that are at least in my last auction draft going in like that $15 or so range, like Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, Chris Carson. Maybe spend a little more and get a guy like Mac or Aaron Jones or Devonta Freeman or something like that. And I just feel like, one of those guys at least, may break out for a big year. And just as the way, like even a lot of those 2nd round running backs, I like Dalvin Cook. Like Dalvin Cook's tremendously talented, but he's hurt a lot, and so once we get kind of past those first maybe 5 or so running backs, it gets kind of sketchy to me to the point where, I think I would just as soon, take some of those 3rd, 4th round guys and hope that, 1 or 2 of them break out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My final, I'll let you go. AJ, did you have something?
You can go first.
My final thing would be when you draft, and throughout the year, know your depth chart. Know who the backup is. Not necessarily for handcuff reasons, but so that when you see like someone like who was I thinking recently? Recently when I wanted to get what's his name? The Dolphins guy who didn't do Drake. I wanted to get Drake. He got drafted. I knew who his backup was. I can't think of it now.
Kalen Ballage.
Ballage, yeah. And actually, I liked him. And so when Drake went down recently, I had Ballage in a lot of leagues. I was like, yes. Just not that Drake is going to be gone for long, or who knows, but just kind of know, especially with running backs, knowing. But with the whole thing, I would say to anybody, if anybody's like coming into fantasy football or anything like that, like have a good grasp of the depth chart. Know who's next up, because people get injured all the time in football.
Mm-hmm.
AJ, you're up.
I've already talked about what's his name, Justin Jackson, Austin Eckler. Just want to throw out Riley Ridley's name out there real quick just to watch him. But I think right now the most
Bears fan,
also a Georgia fan. I gotta say, I think the number 1 most underrated running back in the league right now, his ADP is average running back 41. I think it's Latavius Murray. I'm gonna be entirely honest. He's being taken way too low, I think, for his draft position. He's taking over Mark Ingram's job. He's going to be working with Alvin Kamara. I think they could find a really good balance. I think he could be, if not a prime flex spot position, a really good running back 2 by year end.
I totally agree. That's why I took him from Jared.
Yeah, I traded him. I traded him to Judah for Cooper Kupp.
Ooh, interesting.
I am not a Cooper Kupp believer, so that worked out mutually.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how that works out.
I completely agree with you as far as Latavius Murray goes. I think he's an upgrade to Ingram. Not necessarily because Ingram was bad. I've always been a huge fan of Ingram, but he's getting old. He was getting old last year. He had problems with the coaches, whereas I feel like Latavius Murray is just coming in with no baggage. He's just coming as a dude who's going to run it in on the 5,
Totally agree. That's why I brought it up.
And the Saints were the number 1 team with touchdowns in the 5, or in the red zone. They had like absurd numbers, like of touchdowns from the red zone. So kind of helped that they have like weird situations where their backup.
Yeah, Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their backup quarterback's running
back tight end kick returner.
That would be the most frustrating thing. Like, I didn't have a lot of stock in. I don't think I had any Mark Ingram last year, and I had limited. I don't know if I had. Actually, I don't know if I had really any Alvin Kamara. But that would be the most frustrating thing, to have your backup quarterback vulture a touchdown from.
I had Ingram last year. That was frustrating 1 or 2 games.
I had a lot of Kamara and a lot of Ingram. See, what's funny is about Kamara is he scored a lot of his touchdowns from like 30 yards out, and rarely from in the red zone. They would give him a try and he would get like super close. He'd get on the like 1 yard line, and then they'd bring in like whatever, Ingram, Taysom Hill, something else.
See, I think this year another like duo that could kind of put up, I think, similar numbers, because they're sure as heck not going to have anybody to throw the ball to in Seattle, is Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. Like, I love Chris Carson this year.
I don't, but I do love Penny.
Well,
do love
and
Penny.
yeah, there's Penny there too, and so
Pretty Penny.
Penny could end up having like a Mark Ingram, type role from last year or something like that. So, because Seattle, like, who are they going to throw the ball to? So, I think they might be.
I think they got a couple good guys to throw to.
Who are they?
I rest my case. Your
Doug,
Honor.
No, Lockett.
Doug Baldwin retired.
Lockett.
Yeah,
Okay,
Lockett's
that's one.
Metcalf.
Metcalf is a rookie receiver who is known for
beast.
his physique.
He's a
That doesn't
beast.
matter. That doesn't matter.
David Moore. David Moore's amazing.
But all of these
don't sleep
receivers
on
you're
David
picking
Moore.
up
No one's-
have
Don't sleep
question
on David
marks.
Moore.
No one's ever said the words David Moore is amazing. That was a first time right there.
Okay, the first time for. I was once the guy saying Alvin Kamara is amazing when nobody else heard those words. All right, well, guys, that wraps up the show. David Moore is my new hero.
I'm gonna be watching him now, to see what
Better.
he.
If
Yeah.
you want to see the Michael Jordan of football.
Okay, let's not get ahead. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
We were gonna like Judah's camera's gonna actually bump down or something. We're just gonna see like an empty vodka bottles or something where he's just completely. Man, these are some pretty hot takes, Judah. Where those? That's where they're coming from. Okay.
No way. I look, you guys are sleeping on him. All right. So, anyways, that does it for our first season. No. Our first episode of our third season. We loved having you on, Jared, or at least I did. AJ told me he wasn't that fond of you, but whatever.
It's great having you, man.
Thanks.
And hopefully next week we can fire it up again.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, guys. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your thoughts. And we'll sign off.
Adios.
Go Colts.
Go Bears.
Go Packers.
Oh, no.
Yes. All right.